see them coming, that you don't allow them to steal your peace.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Thank you.
So you literally have something for everyone at any phase of their journey.
That's right.
I mean, I saw the journal. Of course, we talked about the children's book, now cat
Mhm.
calls, and we'll see what's happening next.
That's right.
So if your life was a book, what's the title?
If my life was a book, I think I would title it The Awakening, because for a long time, you're sleeping, you're walking through life, and you don't get it. You don't quite understand which direction you're headed in. You don't quite understand who
Mhm.
God called you to be. You don't quite understand what he put on the inside of you. But then there comes a point in your life when you awaken and the fire ignites on the inside of you, and then you grab a hold to your purpose and you begin to walk it out. It doesn't always happen when you're in your 20s or even your 30s. Sometimes that awakening doesn't happen until you get in your 40s and 50s, when you finally start to figure out, this is who I am in Christ. Not who the world has been telling me I was, but this is who I am in Christ. That's when I discovered that I was an author, that I was an encourager, a, a shaker and a changer, a mover. That's when I began to see my true purpose.
Woo, that was amazing. I don't even know what else to say. That was amazing. So inspiring. I absolutely loved everything that you've said. As we close out, if you can just give some advice to our authors that are here, that are listening, and that are really interested in, writing their story, whether it's about them personally or, some aspect of their journey. But what advice would you give to our future authors?
The first thing I would say to you is get started. Get started. Because the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Whatever purpose God has put on the inside of you, stop making excuses and say, I don't have what I need. Because there's resources. There are people out here who have done this that you can talk to that'll help you to get started. Get started and stop wasting time, because that's your destiny. That's what God has called you to do. And the longer you wait, the more time you allow the devil to steal from you. He's stealing your dreams. He's stealing your purpose. The longer it takes you to get started, don't waste any more time. Pick up the pen, start writing your thoughts down, start putting your book together. And if you need assistance, I'm available. Fayette's available. Jennifer's here. There are authors out there that you can talk to. I've had people come to me numerous times and say, I need help. And then I never heard from them again.
Mhm.
So you have to be persistent and have perseverance to go after what you want. I always tell my kids, you have to be thirsty and hungry for it. Like it's dependent upon your survival. Because if you're not, it's just going to be another thing that you pick up and you put back down. When God told me to write a book a year, I am hungry for that, because I know that if I make a promise to God, I can't go back on that. I cannot go back on that. So I have to keep and stay the course. And so I encourage you today that if it's in you, then get moving and start going.
Wow. Thank you so much, Annette. That was Annette Roberts Murray. So, Annette, where can we find you? Because I know this is not the last that we will hear from you, but I know there are those that will be listening that will want to reach out to you.
Okay, I have a website, and I'll get you my website address, but I'm also, all my books are available on Amazon. The mental health book, Cat Cows, and I do consider this mental health, is going to be featured on KCRA in April for their mental health awareness. So I'll be doing an interview with Brandy Cummings regarding this particular book. So look for that. That's going to be coming out in April. My Pandemonium book was featured on KCRA when I first came out with Deidre Fitzpatrick. So I'm out there. I'm always moving, always looking for the next opportunity.
Yes, you are. I love being in your company. Thank you again, Annette. And that concludes this interview with Miss Annette Roberts Murray. And I also want to say a special thank you to BMAC Productions for allowing us to use this space. Thank you all for being here today. We are going to take a little break so that you all can continue a conversation with Miss Annette. Visit her table, check out her books as well as Jennifer's, and we will be back in about 10 minutes with our next author, Jennifer James.
Welcome to the Stockton Black Book Club, where we are hosting Author's Corner. Our host for today is Fayette Reynolds, and she will be interviewing Miss Jennifer James Lewis. Let's give them a round of applause one more time.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I am Fayette Latrice Reynolds, a author, and I am here today with the fabulous Jennifer James Lewis, an author of both children's books, adult books, very inspirational, and 9 books under your belt.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so amazing. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, professionally.
Well, I come out of the special education system, and I had been in special education classes when I was younger, and I went to all different schools, and so then I went through that, and then I was told when I got older and I graduated, that I only could go so far, and my mother didn't believe that, so I went on and got my AA degree. When I was in, that's part of your process.
Right.
I remember this one instructor, and I was talking to, he was my English instructor and very strict, but he let me know, he said, oh, you can go ahead and get your bachelor's degree. And I said, you can get your master's or PhD, whatever you want. And I said, well, they told me I had a learning disability. And he said, it doesn't matter. He said, you can go do what, you can do it. You just have to believe it.
Wow.
And so I went on and got I applied for my certifications in early childhood education and certifications with children. And I did not apply for my AA degree. Okay. When it came in the mail, I was like, I didn't apply for this. So that was nobody but the Lord. The Lord, he released it. It was my AA degree in liberal studies. And then I went on to get my bachelor's degree, and I got my bachelor's degree in psychology.
Wow.
And so it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter, what they say, and, God is going to do it. It's for his glory. It's for you to go out and tell people that they can do it. Okay. Now I started writing at the age of 17. And so I used to write books. So a friend of mine, and he told me, he said, you write the way you write. It's like it comes from a movie.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I said, wow, wow. And I didn't finish that book. And so I didn't, so I did not pick up and write again until years later. And then God was tugging at my heart to write again. So when I started writing again, I was a co-author in this book, and it was called Before the Vow Breaks.
Wow.
I was one of the co-authors, and Denise, I think her name was Denise Smith. She was over it. It's a ministry, and she wrote about marriage. How your marriage, you may go through things in your marriage, but through prayer, because it has to all go. Prayer has to be your main focus, has to be your meat, because in prayer, in that secret place, that's where God will meet with you, and he will give you a strategy on how you will defeat the enemy.
Wow.
And so I started off with there. Then I had this other book, It was Born to Slavery, Crossover to Freedom. When I was younger, I used to look at movies,
Hmm.
and I believe that was just like a part of one of my process of because Born to
Hmm.
Slavery was back in the slavery days. Okay, so I used to watch movies like Gone with the Wind and stuff like that. And so that was like a way of trying to show me how to write that book, I
Right,
believe.
right.
And so then I began when that popped Born Slavery in my spirit. I thought it was going to take years to write that book.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wrote this book during the pandemic.
Okay.
Okay, so then when I finished it only took a few months, and then I was able to produce. It came out in December of 2020.
Wow.
Born to Slavery. And this book is not only is you can buy a paperback, but you can get it in audio because everybody does not read paperback books. Some
Right,
people
right.
read audio. So I want to give my viewers a choice. So after I wrote this book, I went on, I wrote children's book because children, they love to read and to bring books
Yes.
back into to the child because, and I wrote The Land of Canaan, and the land of Canaan talks about the promised land and how God has
Hmm.
promises for his people. We just got to have faith.
Right,
Faith.
right.
Okay, you got to have faith when we may not see faith, but if you have faith small as a mustard seed,
Mm.
God is gonna move. He doesn't want to see doubt or unbelief. He wants to see our faith. You may not have the money, but God will make a way for you.
Right,
If
right.
you have a book, He'll make a way for you to get it published.
Absolutely.
So then it was this book right here. I came out with this book. And this book is about, and I took a component out of the DRDPs as a way of teaching children
Yes.
about sharing because young children don't like to share. So this teaches them about why we should share. So
Absolutely.
I came out with this book. Then I
Wow.
came out with the Marriage Club. Okay. Okay. And this is about marriage and how it's about couples. Okay, it's about couples and how they triumph through prayer.
Hmm.
They went through trials, but they still came through it with prayer. Okay,
Right,
so I
right.
came out with the Marriage Club. Okay, and this book, and I took one of my characters out of this book, and I came out with Single and Satisfied.
Wow. Such powerful titles.
Single and Satisfied. I came out with this book
Hmm.
and this character in this book. Okay, so what made me write Single and Satisfied, I wanted to minister to the single people,
Yes.
the single ones, the single. There's a lot of single people out there who are believing God for their Boaz,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
if you stand on God's word,
Yes.
and if God promised you that He was going to do it, He's going to do it.
Wow. Wow.
No matter what it look like, no matter what it feel like, God is going to do it. Then I came out with this book, okay? Freedom. This is a continuation from Born to Slavery. What
Mm.
happens to promise afterwards? Okay?
Mm.
What happens to her afterwards? So this book came out, and this book talks about what happens to promise after
Right.
the first book. So and what made me want prompted me to write this book because I had just a feeling of wanting to continue to write what happens afterwards. What happens to promise? What happens to her husband? What happens? So whether you are writing a self-help book or you're writing a audible, you're writing an audio book.
Right.
This book, because you can minister in either a self-help book or you can also minister in if you're writing a story you could
Hmm.
still minister.
Absolutely.
So then this book, I wrote this book, Unshakable Faith.
Wow.
Unshakable faith, because that's what God wants to see, your unshakable faith. Unshakable faith, that's what He wants to see. So I did
Hmm.
I collaborated with other authors, and we wrote this. And this
Nice.
book was at a women's conference, and so many people. And I just gave this book away. And so this book here will minister to you about your circumstances, about your trials, things. If you just have that unshakable faith,
Right.
that's what God wants to see. He wants to see your unshakable faith.
Right. Right.
And then I have another book, but it's not here. It's about adoption, because there's children in the system,
Mm.
in the foster care system. There are children, a lot of children out there who are looking for homes. Okay, and it talks about in that book. It talks about how this little girl they went back to Canaan, returned to Canaan. They
Mm.
went back, and so she was afraid of being adopted, and so she was able to go there and receive
Right.
a message about adoption, and that you don't have to be afraid. So when you go and you adopt,
Mhm.
okay, and there's so many children out there looking for homes, you know, and we're it.
Right.
The saints, we are it. We have homes that we could offer
Right.
those to our children, and so that prompted me to write adoption, because there are a lot of
Right.
children out in the system who need homes. So I wrote that book, and then I wrote my last book. I came out last year around. I close. I think it was like around Christmas or close to it. It was called Christmas: The Real Meaning.
Mm.
It talks about Christmas is not just one day a year, but it's every day, and how we're supposed to share with our
Yes.
community and love. So we talk. It talks about Christmas and what it doesn't have to be in a
Mhm.
store in Macy's, but it
Right.
starts off at home.
Wow.
It starts off in your house. And so, have an idea, where I want to make a kit. You know,
So that's next.
yes, that's next.
Awesome. Wow. Well, this is amazing. I'm sorry. I am so full. You have spoken to every aspect of our lives, and this is 9 books in just such a short time.
Hmm.
What were some of your challenges? What were there, what was your biggest challenge? Because you have definitely put in the work. I know a lot of people are interested in becoming authors, and sometimes the question is, how do I do it? Where do I start? So, what were some of your challenges, and what would you say to authors? How do they just, delve right into it? Because it can be challenging, but you make it look a little easy. I'm just saying, you make it look easy.
Well, when I was writing Born to Slavery, you know, um, I went through a publishing company.
Okay.
And so that was a little bit pricey, because
Hmm.
pricey, but it was like one of my first books, compared to when I was a co-author.
Right.
And well, as I was writing that book, and because that was pricey, I said, well, I know there's other ways to
Right.
write, and it don't be that much. So I went and I continued to write other books under
Okay.
self help books, and then I use a company called Fiverr, and they have like different
Hmm.
people who will edit your book, people who will read and proofread your book, and they will write notes and tell you what you need to change. Okay, and that was like in my first book, because I went through a publishing company. They almost did the same thing,
Right.
but okay, because they have people like that in publishing company. So if you decide to go through a publishing company, it's going to be a little bit might be a little pricey,
Right.
depending on who you go with. Okay, and so I not only did I wrote books. This is crossed over to audio. I have 2
Wow.
books in audio. Okay. And so you can cross over into audiobooks. And I found it all on Fiverr.
Yes.
Okay. And there's so much when you get the app and you download, there's so much on there. So I just prayed about it, and the right person did eventually come along. And so they will work with you. So you just have to find the right person.
Right.
Don't go with the first person. You pray about it and let the Lord lead you. You go into your
Absolutely.
secret place and let God lead you on what you should do. Don't go in your
Absolutely.
flesh, but you let the Lord lead you.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much. There are several resources, as you've shared. Audible is definitely one of them. Of course, written books or actual paperback books. And then there's, Kindle and other
Mhm.
different versions of books. So I love that you've actually explored or that your writings are available on several different platforms. So let me ask you this: what's a dream that you're still pursuing? Because you've navigated and have done very well in the writer space. So what else are you pursuing?
I'm writing a book now called Faith That Opens Doors. It takes
Okay.
faith, like unshakable faith.
Mm-hmm.
Now you need it's faith that opens doors. So when you step out on faith, God
Yes.
gonna do the rest. Because God wants to see, do you believe Him?
Yeah.
God is gonna put the right people into your pathway. Okay, so that's my next book is Faith That Opens Doors, and then the next book is called Grow Your Faith, and that's
Yes.
just going to be a children's book. Okay, and then that for after that book, it will be another book from Born to Slavery about Promise's son
Wow.
David, her firstborn. Okay.
So how do you do it? Are you writing every day? Are you writing on weekends? You obviously are very disciplined.
Hmm.
You have, again, several books that you've already published and several books that are, still to come. So what does that routine look like for you as far as writing?
I write when I can, or after I get off work or on the weekends I write. Then I'm in the process to of writing Faith That Opens Doors, and then they have something called where they're called, I forgot what it's called, is where you the person will write you give them the idea and they will write the book for you.
Mm. Again, lots of resources. So
Hmm.
no excuses when it comes to writing. We can all do it. We all have a story, I believe, inside of us,
Hmm.
and there's a lot out there to support us. So, another question or a final question: if your life right now was a book, what is the title? Your life.
Um, faith, having faith when it don't look like it, having faith
Powerful.
when there's no money, having faith in yourself, because what if the people are, when I wrote um Born to Slavery, and we went into a Barnes and Noble bookstore and I did a book signing.
Hmm.
um Nobody showed up. I advertised and I told
Right,
people,
right.
nobody showed up, and I was hurt. I
Yes.
was hurt that and God was showing, let me know I was there.
Mm.
And so
Yes.
I'll never forget that, and um that's what keeps me motivated to keep writing, because
Yes.
I'm believing in that Born to Slavery, it will be a movie or a play.
There you go. You heard it. A movie or a play. Let's
Hmm.
speak it. Speak it into existence.
Call those things not as though they are a movie or a play. I just have to get it into the right
The right hands.
hands.
Well, thank you for serving your purpose and blessing us all with your books, with your story. So, where can we find you?
You can find me on Amazon. You can find me in Barnes and Noble. I'm also, some of my books are in Barnes and Nobles.
Awesome.
And then I have a toy that you only can buy. And I forgot to say that, you can only buy the
Uh,
toy through me. And it's called Judah. And I got it, and it was from Return to Canaan. I took the character from that and I made a toy out of it.
Great.
And the next thing I want to do is a cartoon from Return to Canaan.
Wow. I love it. So many gifts and talents. You are truly amazing. Thank you for sharing this space with me. There you have it, Miss Jennifer James Lewis. 9 books, many more to come. And thank you again. Thank you for being a guest on today's podcast. All right. All right. So now we are going to open it up for questions in our live audience and see if anyone has any questions for Miss Jennifer James Lewis. Over here.
Hmm.
Do you have that information?
Yes, I went
Okay.
on Fiverr, and I do have that information.
Okay, that was
Mhm.
my question. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of resources, and Fiverr is definitely one of them. I don't know. We might have to get a something for being a plug for Fiverr. But many authors have used Fiverr, so a lot of resources there. Any other questions? Yes.
Jennifer, I was wondering, who did you use for your illustration? Who did you use for your illustrations in your books?
I went to when I did this book, I used Blueberry Illustrations. Now they were a little bit pricey, so when I wrote Return to Canaan, okay, I used all illustrations on Fiverr, and it was a little bit cheaper. It was a whole lot cheaper. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions from our future authors? Yes.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I'm retired and I'm just on the second or third page. How do you do it? I mean, what keeps you motivated to do this?
When I went through something like that when I did my first book, and I just went and wrote, I just went and wrote, maybe it was 100 or 200 words, because what prepared me was when I was in college, I would have to write 3,000 word essays. The essays prepared me.
Mm,
So, and you would have to write so much a day so you could meet that quota, because that's what the instructor wants to see. Did you do what I tell you to do? Okay, so when you write your book, just write even if it's 50 words a day, because eventually it's going to be done. Or if you want to have someone help you, then they have places on Fiverr that will help you. You give them the idea, and they'll write the book for you.
there you go. Resources again and Fiverr again. So I'm guilty. I've used Fiverr as well. All right. We have one more question.
What would you tell someone who wants to write a book about themselves, but it might be too much information for people to handle? And you don't want the backlash because you work, you're a doctor, you're a therapist, you're a etc. But you want to share that story, but it's probably too deep. What would you say to someone?
Well, if you were writing a self-help book, you can write it down, write everything down on there. If you're writing about something that, if you're like, say for instance, I'm a teacher and I want to write about what's going on there, then I might use a fictitious name,
Mm,
so they won't even know. Or if I use a fictitious name, I would not give out the name of the place I work at. I would use something fictitious. Okay, so you can use a fictitious so they won't figure it out who it is.
right.
Did I help you or? Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I always think about, if I put this out there, how am I going to be viewed?
Mm,
Or people knowing too much about my story, or it's turning against me rather than helping.
right.
Well,
So,
if you writing about yourself, because to me, when you said that, that's a testimony,
mhm,
and it's gonna help minister to other people who may be going through something like that or
Absolutely.
something similar. Okay, so it's going to help others. It's, and so that's how I would view it, because
Right.
what you went through, God is going to
Your
bless
story.
you for it. You, your blessing
Absolutely.
comes from God.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So we are going to actually wrap this portion up because we will be back with one final interview, and we'll go a little deeper into my story. So I just want to thank you, Jennifer James.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being a blessing to us. We're going to take about 5 minutes. And if you have more questions for Jennifer, myself, or Annette, feel free to ask. Visit our tables, and let's come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll do the final interview. So I hope you all stay around. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Stockton Black Book Club's Author's Corner. And now we introduce our host, Annette Roberts Murray, with author Fayette Reynolds.
Welcome. Welcome. I want to welcome you all out to the Author's Corner. It's exciting today. We have Fayette. We go way back, huh, Fayette?
Yes, we do.
I am very excited about asking you some questions today because I know it's going to be really enlightening for us. And so let's start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. It is great being here with you, Miss Annette. As you said, we do go way back. I'm a mother of 5, and one of my daughters, actually 2 of them, went to school with your twins.
That's right.
So that's how far back we go. Our children are now adulting in their 30s. But so again, I'm a mother. I am a grandmother. I work in the healthcare profession as a consultant, equity, inclusion, diversity, care experience. I am a special event DJ, which is something that I decided to do at the age of 50.
Oh, wow.
So I won't tell you how long I've been doing it. Some of you know, because that'll definitely take you closer to my age. But it's something that I truly, truly enjoy. I believe music just changes the vibe, changes the mood in any space that we enter. So that's a pastime that I enjoy. But I believe when it comes to my purpose work and serving my purpose, it really is the platform of my book. So I'm here today as an author. I wrote my first and only publication, but I'm so inspired by other authors like yourself that there are definitely some more books inside of me. But my book, A Life Worth Living, Loving, and Forgiving, was published during the first year of the pandemic in 2020. So right before the new year, I hit publish and said, oh my God, what did I do? I just put my whole life out on blast for the world to see. So here I am. I'm looking forward to sharing my story with others. I say that it's one thing to sit here and have a conversation with you about my story, but when you put pen to paper, it's a whole new energy, emotions, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about this journey.
Well, we're excited for you. And we know
Thank
that there's a lot of books that are going to come. And I'm going to keep pushing you until those books come out. So
Push.
you've got some cheerleaders in the background.
Thank you.
I want to say that sometimes we as women, we wear many, many hats. We're so busy trying to do this and that and care for our children, our family. And so, I've heard the question posed, how do I find the time to write a book? And so I want you to kind of elaborate on your journey. What did you find to be the biggest challenge when you were writing your book?
Wow. So time is definitely was the biggest challenge, competing, priorities. But I want to take it back a little further. And a book was birthed in me, I'm going to say at least 20 or so years ago, just because of some of the aspects of my story, my journey. You know how you tell somebody something about yourself and they say, "Ooh, you should write a book. That should be a movie." And it was like, yeah, actually, it probably should. So hearing that repeatedly over and over again during the course of my life is what really pushed me to wanting to write the book, to release my story. But my why was also around individuals who were experiencing similar things. My book touches on everything from depression to self-love to growing up in domestic violence to being struck with traumatic or alarming information midway through your life that was like, wow, believing something to be true that wasn't. So there's a lot of aspects to the book. I'm not going to give it all away because I want people to read the book. But again, my why was knowing that I had lived through so much, but I'm still here to talk about it. And I tell people it's like the mere fact that I'm here in this moment having this conversation with you, Annette, or whoever I'm talking to is meant to be. It's a part of my journey. It's a part of my process. But the challenges with writing and just doing it, I had to motivate myself. And one of the things I did, and I failed to mention this, during my introduction, was what I call Vision Purpose Network. So in 2019, I was fortunate to go and see a young lady, some of you may be familiar with her, named Lisa Nichols. She's a transformational speaker. She was here in Stockton. I had the opportunity to see her. So I just want to paint this picture really quick. You know how you go someplace, and let's just say church. You know how you go to church and the pastor is speaking, and you were like, oh my goodness, he's speaking to me. That was for me. It was meant for me to be here today. But you leave and you leave it there. You don't take it with you. It happens so often. I was so moved and motivated by what she said to those that were in the room that I didn't want to leave it. In fact, I didn't want to leave. This event was supposed to be over at 5. I left at 8 p.m. and people were still there. I was jealous. I was mad. I said, I can't believe I have to leave, but I had a gig. I had to go DJ somebody's party. I had literally told this person I will be about 30 minutes late, which ended up being an hour late to getting to their party to DJ. Don't judge me. I do better. I do better. I don't want you to think, well, I'm not hiring her as a DJ. But anyway, I literally wanted to stay, but I couldn't cancel on that person. I stayed as long as I could. But when I left, the whole time I was thinking about how can I keep that? How can I keep that excitement, that inspiration, that motivation? And I knew I wanted to write this book. So Sunday, it stayed with me all day, just relishing in that moment the day before. And then guess what happened on Monday? What happens on Monday morning? I had to go to work. And I said, I'm about to go to work and blow all of this. This is going to be out the window. I'm going to just be into the groove of working and I'm going to lose it. So I got up that morning and I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing affirmations. I've never been consistent with affirmations. My affirmations looked like one word a day. And I said, I'm just going to do it for 30 days. Wake up every morning and come up with a word that speaks to me for that day. But I'm going to post it on social media to hold me accountable. So 30 days turned to 100 days. So for 100 days, I posted a single word, dictionary definition, and how that word shows up in my life. And that's what really catapulted me to doing this book, because with all of that inspiration that I was sowing into myself, I said, okay, Fayette, you're ready. Just do it. Just do it. Just write the book. And then 2020 gave us the gift of time. Amen. So I was able to do it. And that's how the book was birthed in 2020.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That is incredible. And I want to say, because we often struggle to speak our truth, whether we think it's going to bring shame or for whatever reason, you know, we've all gone through some things in our life and those things become our testimony. But we question ourselves about how much of ourselves we want to show to other people, how much we want to be transparent. But I want to tell you, as Fayette was speaking about writing this book, because she was being transparent, there is a freedom that comes with releasing the baggage that you've been carrying all of those years and not worrying about how people are going to view you in the process. Mm-hmm. And when you can get to that point, then you can fly, you can soar.
Absolutely.
And it's a good feeling. So my question to you is, when did you notice that you got to the point where you didn't care about releasing your truth? Because that's something that we struggle with. You know, I heard the question being posed, oh, how do I do this? Should I get a ghostwriter? Should I get these fictitious names? But when did you become comfortable with telling your truth and not worrying about what anybody was going to say?
Wow, that's a good question. And honestly, it came and went, because as quickly as it came that you can do this, you're strong enough. Mm-hmm. I even put a disclosure at the beginning of my book, you know, my story, my perception, right, my interpretation, mm-hmm, forget what everybody else says who was in that time period with me. This is how I saw it, right? That's so right. This is my story. And that really helped me with just being okay with releasing, you know, such a vulnerable story of different aspects of my life and my childhood. But when I pushed, as courageous as I felt that I can do this, I'm good, this is the time is now, I honestly lost that when I hit publish, and I almost pulled it back. And when I say I hit publish, Amazon, I'm giving them a plug, but Amazon makes it easy to write a book and publish a book. Mm-hmm. You literally write it, upload it in their format, and your book is out there for the world. You just let people know where to get it. So as soon as I hit publish, I almost unpublished it, because I said, Fayette, what have you done? Are you ready for this? Are you ready? But I did a couple of things. I had my oldest daughter read the book, and when she read it and she said, wow, Mom, your story is like, there's so many parts of your story that's my story too. Now, this is my daughter that I raised. I had her when I was 19. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I know it's in the book. And I'm like, did I miss something? But it wasn't that. Some of the same things that I experienced, especially around depression and, you know, insecurities, she experienced those things too. And when she told me that it wasn't, because I didn't want it to be embarrassing for my kids, right? You know, we worry about, we don't just worry about what the people who are a part of our story are going to say. We worry about the people who know nothing about our story.
That's right.
The people who are like, wait a minute, I've been knowing you all these years. I had no idea. Right. And I was worried about that too. I work in healthcare. I work for a large organization. I was even worried about, oh my goodness, what if my leaders, or what if, you know, what are people going to think or say about me? But the first wave of individuals that read the book, that praised and applauded and thanked me for being vulnerable and courageous, that really helped me stay grounded in, it's okay. You know, is it uncomfortable? Yes, it is. But let's be honest, we all need cheerleaders.
Yes.
You know, I don't care how courageous you are. There are moments when you just need somebody to cheer you on and let you know, you know what? That was okay. It's all right that you did that. And I had a lot of that along the way. So I'm just extremely thankful. And I just want to share this. I was at a festival a couple of years ago. I want to say it could have been Juneteenth or the Soul Food Festival. And I was with a friend, and I was getting something to eat. And a young lady, she couldn't have been any more than 15 or 16. She came over to me and she said, hey, didn't you write a book? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Because I'm not used to getting that. I'm not like one of these big authors that people are like, oh, I aspire to be that, because I know pretty soon Annette, with all of her books, and because she covers so many topics, she's getting there if she's not there already. So I aspire to be that. But anyway, so excuse me, she comes up to me. She says, didn't you write a book? I said, yes. And I said, wait, you read my book? Like I said, I know the contents of my book. And I was a little uncomfortable. I said, "You read my book?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Where did you get it?" She named the person that gave her the book. And I know that person because they bought several of my books. So I knew she did have the book, that it was possible. And she said, "Yeah, I did." And I said, "Well, what did you think?" And she said, "Is a lot of that was like me. Like that was a lot about my story." That kind of broke my heart to hear that this young lady read my book and had experienced some of the same things. And we didn't go into detail about it, but I just had to give her a hug. And that right there was another validation that, excuse me, that I did the right thing, by sharing my story because of so many people that have had similar experiences. And I'm talking all walks of life, teenagers in her case, adults, people my mother's age, because I talk a lot about growing up in domestic violence and abuse. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
I think
heavy.
I covered the question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Okay.
did very thoroughly. Yeah. And I think that's the goal of many authors, is that when we put our work out there, we want to make sure that we have somebody reading it who can relate, because your life is your testimony. God gives it to us all. And hopefully in telling your story, you're going to help someone else. But if you hold on to that, then you're depriving someone who needs to hear what you have to say, someone that you could have saved or turned in a different direction had you have told your story. So don't be afraid to do that. I want to know, because I just hear this passion in your voice. What ignites the fire on the inside of you? What is it that sparks that?
The impact on others.
Okay.
The impact on others. Whether I'm having a conversation, even outside of the book, I love hearing other people's stories, because when you have a story and you know what it took for you to get to where you are to be standing in that moment, you are excited about other stories. And we all have one. I tell people that when I go to work every day or wherever I show up, you're meeting this person right here. But if you only knew what it took to get here,
That's
right?
That's right.
If you only knew.
That's right.
So I'm excited, and I am impacted by the stories of others and knowing that we all have a journey. And I'm interested. I am genuinely interested in hearing about it, because I hear things that I think I've been through some stuff. But then when I hear the stories of others, I'm like, wow, how are you still standing? How did you get here? But yeah, that really ignites me, is my impact on others and their stories.
Oh, wow. So much like me. I aspire to encourage. So yes, I want to say that, what is it that you aspire to do next? Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
So definitely writing another book. Oh man, every time I put it in the universe, I feel like, okay, Fayette, you done put it out there. You don't get to it. So definitely writing another book. So this book is A Life Worth Living, Loving, and Forgiving. But if you've seen any of the products that I have, I added another word, and that's celebrating. So I feel like those 4 words are so powerful: live, love, forgive, and celebrate. It's like if you could conquer all of those, then you pretty much got it, right? So I see myself in the next 5 years definitely birthing another book, as well as, opportunities to speak, but not just speak, about my story, but hear other stories. So that may show up in a podcast, which I'm working on as well, From the Sidelines to the Game of Purpose. Opportunities to speak to audiences, women's groups. When people say, well, who's your audience? I said, I think women, but really my audience is everyone.
You wear many hats and you do many things in the community, and you're always busy doing this and doing that. If you could ask God for one thing right now that would make you happiest, what would that be?
Oh, wow. If I could ask God for one thing that would make me the happiest, I think it would be I'm torn between two,
Okay.
and I do things in single words. So I think it would be it's discipline,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also patience.
Mm.
But I'm going to say discipline because if God could just give me more discipline, it is going to impact every area of my life.
Mm.
It's going to impact how I progress with continuing to write, how I show up for others,
Mm-hmm.
everything that I do, everything that you do that to be successful requires an amount of discipline, right?
Yes.
And I think with that, patience will come too, right? But I'm
Mm.
just going to say discipline.
All right. So my question to you is, if you can give any advice to aspiring writers, what advice would you give them?
I would say what most authors say is just do it, right? That's the first thing. But I think the biggest thing is keep your why in the forefront, because anybody who's a writer, author, publisher, whatever lane you're in, there's a why behind that. That's why it came to you in the first place. So whether you're writing your personal story, a fiction, a children's book, self-help book, whatever that looks like, you got to keep your why forefront in the center, because that is what's going to motivate you and keep you going. And then discipline, because it does take a level of discipline and, scheduling and time. I wrote one book in 2020, and here I'm with amazing sisters. Annette, for instance, who has written 8 books and ready for her next book. She's determined to write 1 book a year, and I love that. And I don't know if I'm not there yet. Obviously, I'm not there yet, but I know I have another book in me, and I know that for me, it's just doing it and revisiting my why frequently, because that's what's going to inspire and motivate me. And use the resources. There are so many resources. So some of you, want to write a book, but you may not think you're a good writer. There are ghostwriters. Some of you may not want to do it as a paperback. You want to do it as a soft copy book, like a Kindle or an audio book. And one of the things, because everything is always evolving, right? So even in the author space, one of the things you hear a lot about, because sometimes the question is asked, well, how many pages or how many words? It's not even a factor anymore, because now they have something called low content books. Your book could be 10 pages, it could be 500 pages, but remember the attention span of our people, of our readers, right? Which is why audio is so prevalent now. But again, I say just do it and keep your why at the center of your attention, so that it drives you. My word for 2024, or actually in the season, because it can change. Our words are evolving. So right now, in this moment, in this season of my life, my word is value. And that word came to me at the end of 2023. So I mentioned I have 5 children. 4 of them are daughters. So I'm a mom. I'm a mother. And if anybody has daughters or sons, or just being a parent, we kind of go in their lanes a little bit, right? We kind of zigzag. Sometimes I'm in their lane, sometimes I'm not. I decided this year, I'm gonna wait till you invite me in your lane, and then I'm gonna decide if I'll accept the invitation. I may not even accept the invitation to navigate into your lane, but if I do find myself in your lane, I wanna make sure I'm adding value. Not only in the lane of my children, but also in the lanes of other things that I encounter. I want to add value. I wanted to add value to this space today. So anything I do, I want to be conscious. I want to be intentional about the value that I'm adding. So that's my word in this season. It's value. Thank you.
You definitely added value to this Author's Corner today. So we want to thank you for coming out, Fayette Latrice. We want to thank you for joining us. And can we give her a round of applause? She's been awesome.